Good morning. I'm delighted to be standing here with a wonderful longtime partner, District Attorney Jackie Lacey, and an array of other very important partners to discuss during this holiday season the importance of consumers being alerted to the potential dangers of buying counterfeit or recalled items online that are masquerading as legitimate targets. It's all too easy for shoppers to buy counterfeit or recalled items online. They can rip you off financially, and they can jeopardize the safety of you and your family. As we highlight today, phone chargers that are counterfeit don't work and can pose serious danger. As we highlight today, recalled bike helmets can fail to protect your child in a dangerous situation. And of course, recalled or counterfeit car seats also pose serious threats to the safety of you and your family. This is an opportunity to avoid becoming a victim. We're going to provide you with a series of tips in just a moment. Let's begin by talking about counterfeits and focusing on counterfeit chargers. Yeah, I have props today, so be ready. All right, so our friends at Underwriters Laboratories have been testing chargers, legitimate ones and counterfeit ones. Here is a boxed version of a legitimate Apple charger. Let me point out first, not only it's in a box, it's white, there is a tear strip on it. You have to take that strip off in order to open the box at all. And the box inside reveals a white charger. All Apple phone chargers are going to be white. By contrast, here are some examples of phone chargers that are counterfeit that one can purchase. Look at the difference in the color from the white. Apple, as an example, is never going to add this bling here to their phone chargers. There are a number of things that you should know about counterfeit phone chargers as opposed to legitimate ones. When UL tested 400 counterfeit chargers, 99% didn't work. Think about it for a second. Almost every single counterfeit charger that UL tested didn't work. So you got ripped off financially. But worse, these phone chargers can pose dangers of electrocution or shock. So we want to alert you to what to look for so you can buy a legitimate phone charger. I want to remind you, we stood here in 2018. Our office partnered in 2018 with UL and Apple, and we prosecuted civil enforcement cases involving counterfeit electronics, including phone chargers. As I mentioned earlier, some tips for your viewers, readers, and listeners. Look for legitimate packaging when you buy something like an electronic phone charger. As I mentioned, Apple, always white, never colors. Apple never adds any of this additional decoration to a phone charger. Look for the U/L sign on your phone charger, on any electronics. That indicates it's been tested and has passed Underwriters Laboratories testing protocols. Now, I will point out to you that on some of these, they're going to be what would purport to be UL labels on them. But if you look at the labels, and this is another tip, if you look at the labels, there are misspellings in the labels. The U and the L are off, you can tell. These are counterfeiters who are trying to get you to believe by just a glance at this that it's legitimate, when in fact they are not. Also, pricing is, as we'll talk about more today, pricing is a sign. If you're purchasing a phone charger like this and you're seeing it being deeply discounted online, that should be a warning that this is probably not a legitimate product. And in general, as you're contemplating what to buy in this holiday season, a deeply discounted item online relative to other competitive prices is a warning to you. The labeling, this is not just an Apple phone charger issue. The labeling and the box that's contained in are signs. Again, look at the spelling. Look at whether the product has missing stickers or trademarks on it. And I do want to say that even though there are many legitimate ways to buy online, if you buy in a brick and mortar store, you are more likely into purchasing a legitimate item. I want to shift for a second to recalled items. And this helmet. So this is an example of what might look to you to be an item that you might purchase for your child, because we purchased it from Walmart.com. We purchased it online. But this helmet has been recalled. Why was it recalled? Because this strap didn't always work. Now, what does that mean if you buy a helmet for your child and the strap doesn't always work? It means the helmet could fly off. I mean, I will tell you from personal experience. A number of years ago, I was riding my 10-speed with my daughter, who was just learning how to ride a bike. And we were slowly riding on a bike path, and a small child raced across the path and got immediately in front of my daughter's bike. And she was just getting started. And so I did what every parent would do. I leaned down from my bike and did the thing we do in car. I tried to protect her from being in an accident with this little kid. And I tried to stop her bike. The result of that was that I flipped over my bike, and I was wearing a helmet. I crashed to the cement, and I cracked off the front of one of my teeth, but the helmet prevented my head from suffering a major, but it could have been a very significant injury. If the helmet had flown off, I don't know what would have happened. Think about this helmet and your kid. So let's talk about the recalled items. Now, in this case, our office alerted Walmart to the fact that we were able to purchase this recalled item online from them. And it appears to us as though Walmart, they haven't told us this, but it appears to us as though Walmart has taken that recalled item off of Walmart.com. But we are sending them this morning, and I have a copy of it, and we have copies for you, a cease and desist letter. Because first, they need to alert their customers who purchase these items that this is a recalled helmet and offer them refunds. They need to commit to assuring that this helmet does not reappear on their website until it's been cleared of a recall because it's been upgraded. And the last point is a particularly important point, especially as the federal government has retreated from consumer protection, leading offices like Ms. Lacey's and mine to have to step in. It's especially important that Walmart do this itself. It shouldn't be dependent on the City Attorney of Los Angeles to identify recalled items on its website. And goodness knows a consumer has no way to know that if they're buying something on the website itself without doing a lot of research. So we're also demanding that Walmart cease and desist from failing to remove recalled items from its website. Because you should know that it's against federal law for a brick and mortar store to offer a recalled item for sale, and there are meaningful penalties associated with doing that. The internet should be the same way. So we'll keep you closely apprised of how Walmart responds. And we know that there are other online purveyors of merchandise that also have recalled items, and we're going to be focused on this issue in a meaningful way in this holiday season. And I should tell you, picking a bike helmet, the Consumer Protection Safety Commission says helmets and safety gear are a must. Helmets must fit properly and be worn at all times. I gave my anecdote from personal experience, but the federal experts say that real helmets reduce chances of head injury by 50% and neck injury by 33%. So, tips for parents. Parents should be aware that bike helmets must have a label indicating that they have passed the CSPC's mandatory safety standard. In addition, there are statements that have to appear on these helmets. You should check your helmet to be sure they appear. It has to say it complies with the U.S. CPC safety standard for bicycle helmets and lists the ages. For kids under 5, the helmet must say it's safe for persons aged 1 and older. And the helmet has to include the name and the address and the phone number of the manufacturer or importer. If you, as a buyer, a consumer, are not sure if the helmet you're seeking to purchase has been subject to a recall, it's easy to check. Go to the Consumer Product Safety Commission's website. They have a list of recalls. Final thing I want to call attention to is car seats. You know, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration urges that consumers purchase car seats for their kids that not only meet federal standards, but it also warns parents to be aware of signs that the car seat may not meet those standards. So here is a car seat that is a legitimate car seat, and it contains the following elements. Telltale signs that it might not be a legitimate car seat would be the opposite. So for example, this car seat has lower anchor attachments, as you can see. Counterfeit car seats often don't. This has a chest clip. Counterfeit car seats often don't. If the car seat is only secured by a seat belt crossing the seat, that's a sign that it is counterfeit. Flimsy design, improper labeling, those are signs. And these words appear on this car seat. The vehicle restraint system conforms to all applicable motor vehicle safety standards. If you want to verify the car seat hasn't been recalled, if you want to verify this is a legitimate car seat, you can go to the Consumer Protection and Safety Commission's website, and the National Highway Transportation Administration, Safety Administration also has a website. And we have many partners I'll introduce in a few moments, but our partners at LAPD will install your car seat for free. Partners at the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration will also do so. And if you speak Spanish, you can get help. So, important tips. We're taking action regarding the allegedly recalled item and Walmart. We're also urging consumers to be vigilant in a holiday season when everybody should be celebrating and no one should be a victim. And now, speaking of people who stand up for those who have been victimized in crime, speaking of someone who is a leader in law enforcement, not just here, but across the nation, it's a privilege to introduce one of our closest partners at any level of government, a terrific district attorney here in Los Angeles, DA Jackie Lacey.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike Feuer, and thank you for being such a phenomenal partner in protecting the residents of Los Angeles from crime. I wanted to let you know that this is one of the many consumer issues that we've addressed together. As we know, consumer fraud adversely affects the safety and well-being of our community, and the residents of LA County look to us in law enforcement to protect them from scammers as well as violent criminals. Generally, we think of consumer crimes, we think of a situation in which someone purchases a product but does not get what they paid for. But today, we're focusing on a potentially harmful kind of scam, and one in which both parties may be complicit: the sale of fake goods. Now, Black Friday is coming up, and we all like a deal. We all like a bargain. But there may be hidden consequences to some of these deals. As we frantically search for bargains this holiday season, please beware. The sale of counterfeit goods not only undermines our economy and jobs, but also may place hazardous items in the hands of children. Counterfeit toys, car seats, mobile phone chargers may sound harmless, but they do not go through the same safety checks as the legitimate items. As a result, they may endanger the safety of our loved ones. And that's why our offices take the sale of counterfeit products seriously, and that's why we vigorously prosecute those who make and sell fake goods. I would like to introduce my three prosecutors from my Consumer Protection Division. Head Deputy Stan Williams, who's over to the left, Assistant Head Deputy Hoon Chun, who is next to him, and Deputy District Attorney Duke Chow, who is to my right. They recently filed a counterfeit case against the owner of a toy import business in El Monte. The defendant was charged in connection with the manufacturing and possession for sale of more than $500,000 in counterfeit items. They were valued at $1.4 million, so it's $500,000 counterfeit items. They included plush toys, backpacks, playing cards. The items were being sold under brands like Pokemon, Hello Kitty, Angry Birds, Lego Ninjago, JanSport, Shopkins, and Super Mario. The man we've charged, he's charged with 7 felony counts of counterfeit and unregistered items. The defendant is scheduled to be arraigned December 4th. If he is convicted as charged, he faces a maximum sentence of 12 years in custody. Now, prosecution is just one way we can work to keep our community safe from dangerous consumer products. My office regularly alerts consumers to the many ways in which scammers try to trick them. So as you shop for electronics, toys, and other items this holiday season, I offer you this advice. If it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. You should investigate what the fair market value of the goods that you are buying. Too often, these counterfeit items are sold online to unwitting consumers who believe they found a great deal on what typically is a more expensive item. Instead, they get a product that is inferior in quality and may present a safety hazard. Here are a few more tips on how not to get duped online. Only deal with reputable sellers. Use sites that you know or that have been recommended to you. Do your research and check online reviews. Consumers who have been duped will often out people in their reviews, and they'll warn you that the items are fake. We can help families keep safe this holiday season by keeping counterfeit goods out of our home. I ask you to think of your loved ones and their safety as you begin holiday shopping. Thank you, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
So I mentioned partners on this almost Black Friday day. And we have many here, and I hope I catch everybody as I mention our partners. If I fail to, raise your hand and introduce yourself, please. We have Joseph Macias, a special agent in charge of Homeland Security investigations here in Los Angeles. We have Elva Munetin from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency, and Lori Ariano from there also. We have Edward Morones from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the acting port director of L.A. Long Beach Seaport. We have Special Agent Susan O'Brien from the FBI, who works in Intellectual Property Theft Task Force, LAPD. We have Lieutenant Rich Conti from the L.A. Sheriff's Department. We have from LAPD, Commanding Officer from the Commercial Division, Lillian Carranza. We have Lieutenant Manny Martinez with us, Eric Aguilar, the Deputy Health Officer from LA County Department of Health Services. We have Kevin Olive, who's the Brand Manager from Underwriters Laboratories, and most of law enforcement in Southern California actually standing with us today. We also have members of my team. I know Jackie is justifiably very proud of the team she introduced from her office, and we're privileged to be your colleagues. In our office, standing here with us, among others, are Kate Keneally, who is, I think Kate's here. Here she, no, maybe not. But she should be here. She's the Senior Assistant City Attorney. Assistant City Attorney Will Rivera is here. Deputy Supervising City Attorney for Consumer Protection, Christina Tucson, is next to Will. We have Kevin Gilligan, who's Deputy City Attorney who leads our anti-counterfeiting unit. Kevin is here. He was going to play the role of assistant, but I usurped that role from him today. And although she's not standing here, she should be, because Sasha Lazarovich, who's terrific, who's right over here, is also a Deputy City Attorney at an anti-counterfeiting unit. Do we have Spanish language here? Yes. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to say a few words in Spanish, and then we will have open this to questions. Me da mucho gusto estar aquí con la fiscal del distrito, Jackie Lacey, y nuestros compañeros durante estos días festivos para recordarles de los peligros de no solamente mercancía falsificada, pero también productos retirados que se venden en el Internet. Consumidores necesitan tener mucho cuidado porque productos peligrosos como cargadores de celular falsos y cascos de bicicleta y productos que son falsos o que han sido retirados del mercado por preocupaciones de seguridad, como asientos de carros y cascos de bicicleta, se están vendiendo ahorita en Amazon, Walmart y eBay. Cargadores de celular falsificados están más propensos a incendios o descargas eléctricas y cascos falsificados o retirados del mercado no protegerán. Productos legítimos que han sido retirados del mercado obviamente han sido retirados por una razón. La venta de productos falsificados no solo socava la ley, pero también puede poner productos peligrosos en manos de nuestros niños. Juguetes falsificados, asientos de carro y cargadores de teléfonos pueden sonar inofensivos, pero no pasan por pruebas de seguridad intensos como productos que son legítimos. Como resultado, pueden dañar la salud y seguridad de nuestros seres queridos. Okay, now, happy for questions.
All the items that are on the other table there, are those all counterfeit?
Yeah, these are examples of counterfeit items that in the course of time our partners have been able to procure on the streets or online.
I mean, and, just talk about the potential safety hazards of, counterfeit makeup. I don't know what's in there.
Well, that's a great question, actually. So we're not highlighting counterfeit makeup here among the items that we talked about so far, but we know that makeup, which we think of as kind of an innocuous item, can contain heavy metals or other contents that could contaminate the makeup for women. And we know that the makeup that we're talking about is often sold on the street and often purchased by people who are unaware of their potential dangers. Now, I don't know if Jackie want to say anything further about that, but that is, in fact, a very important issue.
Yeah. I think in some respects, because makeup is so close to our eyes, our nose, and our mouth, you especially want to be careful with any counterfeit makeup because the consequences could be damaging. You could lose an eye, you can be poisoned, and so you really want to be extremely careful with something like that, almost the way you would with food, if you think about it. But it's just very important for people to be aware, to research. Don't just point, click, and buy. A lot of people shop late at night, may not be paying attention to what they're purchasing, and it's really important to be very awake and alert and do your research is the bottom line, because the hazards could be deadly, could endanger your health, and certainly you'd be mortified if you gave a child a toy and that toy ended up missing a part and the child choked on it. You really want to pay attention to this stuff and make sure you know what you're buying.
I feel like it's really obvious, common sense, like if you're going to a certain part of town to get these things, that there's a high likelihood that
Right.
things would be fake. But talk about, do you guys get a lot of calls and are people do this all the time? Are they really surprised?
I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, for instance, as I was driving through LA this Saturday, I saw a lot of things for sale out on tables and under umbrellas, and that's very much a part of being in an urban city, these swap meet markets or whatever that you purchase goods. But it's very important that you realize the long-range implications of that. First of all, a lot of times these goods are made in the underground economy. They're not using union labor. They're not having safety hazards for those employees who are making these goods. There's no health insurance. There's a lot of things that go along with that. And if you're not very aware of how much a toy would cost, and let's say you're a grandparent and a kid gives you a list, and you go out and say, "Hey, I'm going to buy this thing," you would be so much more responsible and so much better if you just bought it from a reputable seller. And it is difficult, but I think many people do know when they go out and buy these things, they know that they're fake, and perhaps someone else can speak to that. But you just need to understand the consequences of that, and you shouldn't do it.
And I just wanted to add something. You know, let's go back to our helmet. So it's one thing, and one could make the argument that many consumers are at least on some level of notice that when they're buying off the street that maybe the item is not legitimate. But this helmet, we allege, was recalled by the federal government. We didn't buy it on the street. We bought it from Walmart.com. And so part of today's message is not what you said sort of is the obvious thing, be aware of what you're buying on the street may not be what it purports to be. But this is from a legitimate store. And I don't want to just easily brush past what I was emphasizing earlier. We believe strongly that in addition to brick and mortar stores, online sellers have the responsibility to assure that the products that they are selling have not been recalled. So, and we just communicated with Walmart this morning our cease and desist demand, and we will see what their response is. But I will point out again, when we contacted Walmart regarding our allegation that they were selling a recalled helmet for kids online, it appeared as though they have removed it from their website, but they haven't told us that. It's just our inspection of the website makes it appear to us as though they have removed it.
How did you guys figure that out? How did you find it?
Oh, we have techniques, man. So seriously, our team, and Christina was leading this effort, scours news reports, looks for consumer complaints. There was a recent meaningful story in the Washington Post that highlighted recalled and counterfeit items, some of which allegedly were sold by, legitimate websites. And that's what alerted us to the possibility that this helmet would be available online, and unfortunately it was.
And on that Washington Post article, one of the things it did talk about was the application of the federal government for a lot of these things. Can you go maybe into more depth about the resources that are having to be expended by your office and by DA Lacey's office to step up for what the feds?
Sure. I'll answer quickly, and then, of course, Jackie will do her thing. So I said earlier, and we've assembled here for other issues where I've indicated that the retreat of the federal government under the Trump administration from aggressively protecting consumers, the environment, vulnerable populations, and so forth, has made it incumbent on public law offices like ours to step in to fill that void. Now, what does that mean? It does mean the meaningful expenditure of resources in our office. It means the leadership of Will and Christina and Kevin and Sasha and others in our office is required, where it ought to be the case that we're merely a supplement to the aggressive enforcement and consumer protection strategies of the federal government. I fear today we are not supplemental to that. We are integral to that. We are leaders in that. I'm proud of that leadership. I want to be very clear. One reason I ran for this job was to be a leader in protecting consumers and vulnerable people in cases just like this. But I would hope that we would be in close partnership with federal leadership on those issues. Partnership, like you recall, when we pursued the Wells Fargo case, we were closely working with the then leaders of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, with the then controller of the currency for the United States. This is a different world right now. And it's a world that I think needs to change. But in the meantime, of course, we are going to step in. Jackie, please. Well, actually, let Jackie respond too, please.
Yeah, so obviously the DA's office is mainly involved with serious and violent crimes, but this is important also. And so the Sheriff's Department has a counterfeit task force. LAPD has something similar. And the fact that they have to dedicate resources to this counterfeit goods. I mean, we're filing one case, but think about how many people are out there breaking the law with counterfeit goods. We're hoping that the word gets out on this case and it discourages people from continuing to do this. But whenever there's a gap in enforcement, someone else normally has to fill in, and we're proud to do it. We have some of the most dedicated law enforcement partners. They're all here. They're very smart. They're very savvy. But also those industries that are legitimately doing manufacturing these goods, they have investigators too that have been very helpful in pointing out some of the more prolific counterfeiters, and that's been very helpful.
Please.
I wanted you to expand a little bit more in what are the consequences, how does the law works with Walmart right now that you find out about these goods that are illegal basically in the market online.
Yeah.
What are the consequences?
Well, so again, Walmart may respond and say, we've got it wrong. They may say, you know what, there's a fact that you missed in this. And you know what, I'd be delighted to know that somehow we've gotten it wrong here. But the rules are like this. There are federal rules and there are state rules that relate to these issues. The United States Code has a section that specifically specifies that if you sell a recalled item as a brick and mortar store, then you're liable for penalties up to $100,000 for each violation. So the penalties could be meaningful. Under state law, there's a state statute called Business and Professions Code 17200. We discuss it a lot here. It's the unfair competition law. Under that statute, a penalty can be imposed of $2,500 per day per violation. And we have gotten significant penalties. I mentioned Wells Fargo earlier. In Wells Fargo, there was a $50 million penalty imposed for the practices that we alleged in that situation. So the monetary consequences can be very important. But I really want to step back from those consequences for a second. I've been trying, and Ms. Lacey as well has been trying to emphasize today, this isn't only about money. Whether it be the hard-earned dollar of the consumer that may be misspent on a product that doesn't work, or penalizing a business that may not be abiding by the rules. It's about safety. And our team is very focused on the intersection between consumer protection and safety and health of our families. If that bike helmet, recalled, flies off because the buckle doesn't work, flies off a child's head in an accident, that child could suffer a very severe injury, obviously. That's what this is about, preventing those kinds of incidents. If there is a child seat that doesn't have the attributes of this one, and someone's loved one is in the back seat of a car and the kid flies off of that car seat because they haven't been properly secured or the car seat itself fails in an accident, the consequences are devastating. So yeah, there are meaningful monetary consequences to a company that fails to abide by the rules. But the consequences we're focused on most heavily are what happens to the potential victim here. This is not just about money at a holiday season, it's about safety too. Jackie?
I think I don't have any further to add to that other than what Mike said, which is it is about safety and the other things that I talked about, jobs and really making sure, especially a helmet and something as important as a car seat, you really need to make sure that it's safe and that it's passed the testing.
Where is the bulk of this merchandise coming from? Is there one place or a couple of places, countries? Is it domestic? What is it?
Well, I want our team to correct me. A lot of this comes from China, yes?
That's correct.
Yeah. So there's a meaningful amount comes from Asia, from China. Are there other countries you want to identify, friends, as locations from which this stuff comes?
Some of them actually were manufactured here in the States.
Okay. Yeah. So South Asia, Asia are often the places from which this stuff comes. But again, sometimes manufactured here. Other questions? Good. Thank you well, not good because we've enjoyed this, but it means that we've exhausted the conversation. You get it. Thank you very, very much for coming.